Welcome to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison.
I'm Molly, a former skeptic turned full-time energy healer and teacher.
And I'm Madison, a born and raised witch running my family's crystal shop.
And we're here to explore all things woo through the lens of both science and spirituality so that you can find the moments of magic in your everyday life and create an intentional spiritual practice.
So if that's what you're into, find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's demystify some magic.
Howdy doody, friends.
Howdy doody. It is the last day of Mercury retrograde.
Woof.
And we are not responsible for the episode that you get. I mean, we are, but we're not.
Yeah, it's been a rough one. It's been a rough. This whole fucking week has just been chaos on top of chaos on top of chaos.
And Molly and I both just had the most chaotic 30 minutes right up to this time that we had set aside to record. It was truly as if the universe itself said, how can we dysregulate one's nervous system before these two humans create something that will be public on the internet forever?
Good thing we've been working on our root.
Thank
because
God.
The regulation, I'm able to laugh at it a little bit. And today, speaking of the root, if you haven't listened to the root chakra episode, I don't even want you to listen to this episode, honestly. It's not going to do you well. It's not going to do you well because we're just going to reference the root episode the entire time. I'm sorry. We are.
I'm not sorry.
But this is our final installment of the chakra series. We're going to do a little Q&A. So we took our questions from the form that is always in our show notes. And I also did a question box over on the Instagram. And the amount of people who submitted questions that were like, which episode do I need to go back and listen to? Haha, JK. made us chuckle. So that's why we're harping on the root, besides the fact that we will probably harp on the root for the entire episode. But before we do that, Madison, what was your magic moment of the week?
So I've talked about this a little bit, that a few weeks ago at Spellcrafter, I had like my first fully back-to-back booked reading day. Mm-hmm. And my truth is it was quite stressful. And there were a few moments like after readings where I would sit and think to myself, like, I don't remember anything that I just said. And I'm full of fear. Mm-hmm. And so this was a few weeks ago, but a couple days ago, I randomly get a call from my family friend who is also my real estate agent. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Tammy, if you're listening, hi, Tammy. Friend of the podcast, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
I get a call from Tammy and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, is everything okay? So I answer. Well, first she sends me a picture of a cat. She texts me just a picture of a cat.
Such suspense right now.
No context.
Okay.
And of course, like, me and my mom are known for, we will always rescue a stray cat.
Of course.
And so I'm like, oh God, Tammy found a cat and she can't get a hold of my mom. That's not what the call was about, but God, do I wish. Tammy calls me. And she was meeting with a client. And turns out that that client was someone who had sat with me that day. What? And at the end of all of my readings, I pull from the Animal Apothecary deck that we won't shut the fuck up about.
Yep.
And she pulled the Panther card. It's this huge black panther. A black cat, some might say. Mm-hmm. This woman who sat with me a few weeks ago proceeds to tell Tammy what an incredible reading she had. Aww. How amazing it was. And then says, yeah, we pulled a card at the end that had a black cat on it. And then I came home and there was this black cat under my car. Aww. The cat that Tammy had sent me the picture of that I thought that I had to go rescue. It had already been rescued.
Right.
And it was just such like a wonderful, affirming experience.
Oh, I love that.
And it actually, she called me, I was on my way home from the store, talking about making a candle and like doing some spell work around feeling more confident in my readings. Mm-hmm. It was so good. It was so lovely. What was your magic moment?
I love that. Mine is less tender.
That's okay.
Mine involves a little thing that I'm kind of mad none of you told me about, that I forgot existed, that I have not heard the name in probably 15 years, and it is Lactaid. It is Lactaid. If you're unfamiliar, it's this little pill that you take when you eat dairy and your stomach digests it better. I have discovered it. And I will tell you, when I eat dairy nowadays, my like the pain, the experience afterwards in my digestive tract, to spare you the details, is like a 9 out of 10. It's like, I'm done for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. Like, put me in a diaper and put me to bed. You know? With Lactaid, I had a slice of Costco pizza, and my experience, I was like only at a 3 out of 10 pain. It was incredible. I was like, this little chewable tablet that tastes like ice cream.
I love that your magic moment is something that you have had access to your whole life.
Had no idea. It was so interesting though, because like, it's so funny because my husband, he's been like, you should try Lactaid. You should try Lactaid. And I'm like, no, I don't need Lactaid. If my stomach doesn't like dairy, I shouldn't give it dairy because my stomach doesn't like it. And then my friend who's like a little bit more woo, she's like, have you tried Lactaid? It's just like an enzyme. It helps your stomach digest it. And I was like, I should try it.
This was a level to the story that I didn't know. And you know what? I support it. Not like woo aside, I'm like, if a man recommends something to me, I'm like, yeah, sure. And then if a woman recommends something to me, I'm like ordering it on Amazon immediately. I'm like driving to Walgreens. That is so funny. You're like, no. So. Big Milk wants me to have Lactaid. I won't touch it.
So, anyways, I thought it was maybe a placebo effect. And so yesterday I had a slice of cake that had cheesecake filling from Costco. So
we
good,
go.
by the way. I've had like
your testing leaves something to be desired. I'll be honest. Like maybe some creamer in a coffee, you know, is a good way to test. No, full send right into the cheesecake filling. Fuck it. Yeah, I want to ruin my day.
Well, I've had like a slice and a half every night since Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, the Lactaid could be working, or I could just suddenly be over my like weird stomach issues.
It could be this medication that I take every day to help me process dairy.
Last night I decided to raw dog a piece of vanilla cheesecake cake, and I'm still feeling it, I'll tell you. So the Lactaid is doing something. I'm not saying I'm going to go back to full sun dairy because honestly, like, I still don't feel great when I take it. Like, it's not a miracle pill. It's like, it significantly reduces my discomfort, does not get rid of it entirely. But it's nice to know that there are options out there.
This podcast is not sponsored by Lactaid, but
if they wanted
we are open to discussion.
My favorite part about this podcast is I often tell you what my magic moments are, but I leave key details out, and then I just let you react in real time.
It's so smart. And you leave out the best parts, like the parts that I didn't even know I needed, because this was funny to hear about. It was funny to hear about you thinking that you could have the cheesecake and that you'd been cured, right? It's even funnier to know that you didn't just remember Lactaid exists. It's that you met a trusted source and you did not marry your trusted source.
To be fair, he does not have tummy issues. She does. So
it's so funny.
It's like if a man tries to suggest like period pain. Really.
Yeah, don't mansplain to me. Yeah. Don't mansplain to me about milk, Justin. You wouldn't understand.
You don't get it. So anyways, I might have a lactose allergy. I don't know. I might venture into cheeses that are lactose free. I don't know. I'm feeling daring. I'm feeling a little wacky. I'm feeling a little.
Nothing so daring as a lactose free cheese. There's nothing like it. That's what that's what true
bad influences on this podcast.
That's what true adrenaline junkies are going for these days. Fuck skydiving.
Fuck skydiving. I'm eating a good Parmesan.
Yeah. Kind you grate by hand.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right. Anyway.
Let's jump into these questions.
Woo. All right. Where do we want to start?
At the beginning.
Okay, great. Question number 1. How do I navigate the overwhelming feeling of every chakra being out of balance?
You know, first I want to say, like, baseline, you are not alone. That is how I feel most days. I'm like, everything's out of whack, everything is bad, and there's no fixing it. Mm-hmm. And what I find is that most of the time that's not true. There is usually one larger problem that is kind of throwing you into a tailspin, and it's usually the root.
I'm really sorry to tell you this.
I'm really sorry. But I will say, because we are going to harp so much on the root, I will also say that when I have a lack of balance in my solar plexus, it really does like shoot out in both directions for me personally. So my first piece of advice is to take a look at the root situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if like, I mean, you very much could have an imbalance in all of them. Yes. That's like, it could happen.
That is also very normal.
Yes. However, once you bring the root into balance, that means your basic needs are being met. You're able to bring your nervous system into that state of rest, out of that survival response. You're able to quiet that worry, that fear. Everything else gets easier. So think about, the way that I think of it is like, if you have a no good, very bad day, okay, you have a day where it's like you spill your coffee. God, I almost just quoted a Aaron Carter song. You spill your coffee, forget your backpack. You're halfway, you come back. You know that song, right?
There's nothing quite like when you spill your coffee and you forget your backpack. That's a wonky root personified.
When you have one of those days, imagine what it's like to go through that day with 1 hour of sleep versus going through that exact same day with a full 8 hours uninterrupted sleep. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you approach that day. It's still a no good, very bad day. But one, you are blowing a gasket when you spill that coffee. And one, you maybe just like get through it, power through it differently.
Yeah.
And so that's really what the root is all about. It's like, I think of it like too, I feel like I'm going to reference The Sims a lot in this episode. So I'm sorry if you didn't play The Sims, but
The Sims are a great metaphor for everything, is the truth. Like, there's a good Sims analogy to be found in most things.
Yeah. If your little Sim is hungry, they're not going to go to work. If your little Sim is hungry, they're not going to flirt with your neighbor. If your little Sim is hungry, they're not going to want to play the guitar, right? Like, those basic needs have to be met. So I think if you are feeling overwhelmed, like they're all out of balance, just go to the root. Mm-hmm. Just go to the root. Let that be your focus. Get your feet back on the ground.
Yeah. Stabilize.
Next.
Is there a daily 7 chakra check-in or ritual that you do, or do you just kind of focus on one at all times?
I love this question.
I do too.
Because my truth is, I don't have a ritual, but I want to create one now.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's very much like, do you do a body scan in the morning?
Depends on the day, to be honest. I do like a body scan if I'm looking at the chakras.
For me, it's very much like a part of a body scan. If you're someone who like deals with pain in any, like, I don't know what it is about me. This is maybe a tangent. I really struggle to say chronic pain about myself. Mm-hmm. Because it feels like a threshold. Like, that feels like claiming something that, like, I don't know if I qualify for chronic pain. But
yeah,
if you struggle with chronic pain, that's where body scans came in for me. Is like, I was having these migraines all the time, and they were like spreading down my neck and shoulders, and then my back was being impacted. And so it started for me as a practice, as like almost like an inventory of like my pain levels.
Yeah.
And so now it's just kind of become routine for me to wake up in the morning and like take a second to think about how I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I ever made a conscious choice to think about that on a spiritual level. I think that it's just kind of become a part of it as well.
Yeah.
And the chakras feel really in line with that. And so that's the closest that I can say that I have. I would call that more of like a check-in than a ritual.
Yeah. See, I have a ritual I do every morning with my coffee that actually, I know the person who submitted this question, and they've heard me say this before because you're a graduate of Reiki training. But every morning I do this little check-in when I'm making my coffee. I just go like, how do I feel? What do I need today? Mm-hmm. Just kind of like, if I could imagine my energies on like a teeter-totter. Do I feel balanced, or do I feel low? Do I feel high? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel lethargic? Am I motivated? Am I not? And I typically will choose like a Reiki symbol that will bring me back closer to balance and stir that into my coffee. But then because my brain just like works in chakras now, I'll be able to pinpoint like, oh, I feel really tired. How's my lower back? How's my mid back? Like, where do I feel this in my body?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I do. I don't necessarily go through each chakra. I just kind of go through like, what do I need today emotionally, energetically, and then physically. And because I teach the chakras through in my training is like a triangle of healing. So your physical, emotional, and energetic health are all in the triangle together, connected to each other, which I go in depth in the How Reiki Works episode if you want to geek out with me about that. But that's kind of the check-in I do is like, where's my emotional, energetic, where's that showing up in my physical body? And then like the chakra associated with it just comes through.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar experience as well. As it's not like the focus. It's more so like a part of a greater whole. Yeah.
I would say if you want to do like a check-in or ritual, I think the body scan is a great idea. I think it will depend on what type of connection you have with your physical and emotional body. Like if you are someone who struggles to connect with your body, I would do a body scan because that's going to help you build that connection. If you're someone who doesn't have a problem connecting with your body, but you struggle to name your emotions, I would do like an emotional check-in and connect the chakras that way, because then you're going to strengthen your awareness of self at the same time.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, just made that up.
Love that. Next.
How do you know if you're ready to move on to the next chakra? We talked about this in the heart episode, but we wanted to bring it back because like 572 people asked this question. So we figured we would answer it here as well.
Yeah. We spent so much time saying, listen to the root, that I fear we didn't say listen to the rest of the series too. Don't only listen to the root. Listen to the root first. It should have been our disclaimer, because everybody knows the root really well.
Everyone knows the root really, really well, which honestly,
I'm proud of you all.
Yeah, if that is my legacy, so be it. Fine with that. I would say, I think what we talked about was you can work on them simultaneously. This was a question that like a couple of people asked too, is like, do I just have to focus one, or can I work on multiple at the same time? They're all connected, right? So remember that the reason we harp on the root is because if you don't feel safe, you're never going to feel creative. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to feel confident. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to feel connected. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to speak your truth. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to feel intuitive. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to be connected to your spirituality, right? Like that safety is the root. Safety is the key. Yeah. And so I like to think we're always working on our root.
Yeah.
Because we have this cute little brain that has a negativity bias, which means it's more likely to remember things that feel negative because that is wired towards our survival, right? So if you get 100 reviews on your business and one of them is negative,
Molly's saying this
little brain is going to harp on that one negative review.
Not Molly making me an example.
I'm so sorry. I love you so much.
For a quick tangent, I would say approximately 3 minutes before I got on this Zoom call, we got a 1-star review at Spellcrafter. That is a blatant lie. Like a recount of an event that categorically didn't happen. So if you want to go leave Spellcrafter a 5-star review, I wouldn't be mad at you. If you want to stabilize my root for me. Anyways.
But yeah, so like the example I always give is like, if I were doing this podcast in front of 100 people, right, and 99 of them were all smiling and nodding, and one person in the back was looking at me sideways with their arms crossed, my brain would zoom in on that person, because in my cute little tiger brain, I'm wondering, where are the exits? What am I going to do? How am I going to get away from this person? Are they going to fight me, right? And so the root, I feel like we're always working on the root. You're never going to stop working on your root, and that's great. We love that.
And I think
we love that.
Like something that I notice a lot is that we say like, when I'm ready to move on to the next chakra. And there is like that, I think, is something that we all kind of want to do, is like turn it into a checklist. Yeah. Of like, oh, I get a gold star when I make it up to my crown, and I've like worked on all my chakras, and I'm like a fully aligned being, and I get an A+.
Yeah.
And it's not really about moving on. Like when we say don't skip the root, don't skip the root, don't skip the root, we're not saying that you have to have a perfectly grounded, balanced, incredibly strong root to work on your sacral chakra or your solar plexus or even your crown. Why we ask you not to skip the root is so that you can understand what is a root imbalance when you see it in yourself. And so when you know that it's time to go back to the root, when you see it in other things. So you know that, oh, I don't feel connected to my third eye. I don't feel psychic. I feel like this is completely closed off. Oh, wait, I just moved and my pipe burst.
Yeah.
Clearly, I am not, my root is destabilized. And so honestly, like my biggest piece of advice for this question is like throw out the idea that you're ever moving on, because you are always working on your crown in the same way that you're always working on your root. It is and you're always working on everything in between. You know, like it's a journey. It's not a checklist.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's this idea of like, you know, I think in some spiritual spaces, it's like enlightenment means Kundalini awakening and all my chakras are balanced. When in reality, is like you are a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you'll have an experience where all 7 chakras are balanced for a split second, and then one of them's going to go off because you are living a human experience.
And the human experience is not conducive to balanced chakras.
Yeah. And the growth, the spiritual, the mental, the physical, the emotional growth comes from the question of, okay, I've fallen out of balance. What am I going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do about it? Right? Because the option could be I close my eyes, I pretend it's not happening, and I go back to live, laugh, loving.
Mm-hmm.
Or I take a good hard look at what took me out of balance and I say, I'm ready to grow.
Yeah.
I'm ready to approach this. And so I think moving on is not the way to look at it. I like what you said. I kind of see it more as like the series is not meant to be like, you know, you've fixed your root and then you fixed your sacral and whatever. It's more
and
so
then you've
like
graduated into enlightenment.
It's more so bringing awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of times we can have sort of emotional patterns that we don't know why we're stuck in, or physical patterns of tension that we don't understand why are sticking in our body. And the chakras can give you some insight into how those connect. So if you have, say you're looping on feeling really insecure, you're scared to be seen, right? You're scared to put yourself out there, meet new people, show your authentic self, whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, how do I break that pattern? I really want to break that pattern. Which chakra does that align with? Maybe I start doing some work on my solar plexus. And then as I'm working on my solar plexus, I notice, no, this is actually a root thing. This is actually like a fear response. So maybe I do both. It's more so like for the awareness of where is this coming from and what can I do about it than it is about like checking that box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next.
How can I get better at working out which chakra I need to be focusing on at what time?
So the way that I approach this is what's going on for you, right? So I think that the way that I do it is what's going on for me, what do I want to change, right?
What do I want to change is a perfect question, I fear.
Yeah.
Next question. We've moved, like, that's perfect. Moving on.
What do I want to change? But also thinking about like the circumstances in your life. So when you get to a place like right now, we just talked about in the last episode, I'm going to be moving very soon. So I know my root's going to be all kinds of wonky. So I'm going to preempt the next couple of months with some extra space, some extra nervous system regulation, some extra time feeling my feet on the floor, slowing down, right? Doing some of that root work so that I can kind of get ahead of it. You might know like, oh, I'm in a play in August or whatever. What month is it? I'm in a play in November. And so I really need to work on my throat and my solar plexus. It's like, okay, maybe I preemptively do that. So I would say like, what do you want to change? What do you want to work on?
Yeah.
What do you need right now? Right? Like where is the imbalance in your life? Whether that's physically, emotionally, energetically, or maybe it's not like something that's happening right now, but a goal that you're working towards.
Yeah, I think the thing that I remind myself of a lot is that there are people who live their whole lives with no aspect of chakra balancing, and they live full, relatively fulfilling lives, I'm sure. there's just no way to do it so wrong that things are not fixable ever. You know, like there's really no way to do it wrong, period. And so even if you just...
Unless you skip the route.
Those people don't have fulfilling lives.
They are rooted in dysregulation.
They are rooted in chaos.
I would say if you are sitting there and you're like, I have absolutely zero idea which chakra I need to be focusing on, which time I want to get better at that, this is going to sound like a plug, but it's not. My genuine suggestion is to go back through the whole series and whatever resonates with you, follow that track.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want like a pure intuition-led practice, close your eyes and pick one. Close your eyes and pick an episode and trust that you're listening to it for a reason.
Yeah. Or, okay, here's another one. Get a box of crayons. What color feels most striking to you? What color calls you to that? Right? And then listen to that episode.
Fun.
I know.
Go on a walk.
Go on a walk.
And look around and say, oh, like what flower that I pass on my walk is like really calling to me? What color is that flower?
Ask your guides for a sign. Or, okay, go to a crystal shop. Which crystal is calling to you? What color is that crystal?
Leave that crystal shop a 5-star review. I got her, boys. I really got her this time. Molly had a full body reaction to that.
I had to back away from the microphone so as not to blow your eardrums.
Our number 1 takeaway from this podcast: go back to the root. Our number 2 takeaway: leave your favorite small business a 5-star review. We're just doing our best.
You know, reminder that this podcast is a small business run by 2 small businesses, and we would love your 5-star review. If you've liked the Chakra series at all, if you could just leave us a little, even if it's not a 5-star review, we also love roasting the 1-star reviews. So just whether you love us or hate us, click those stars.
I leave reviews now that I have a small business. I walk into an establishment and I get a Google notification that's like, oop, everybody loves your reviews. What's your review of this place that you're at?
I know. You know, in the time it took for us to rant about reviews, you, dear listener, could have reviewed this podcast. We don't ask for much.
We don't ask
for much, but please leave us a review. Okay, number 5.
I can't believe how you moved.
If I feel like all my chakras are out of balance and I'm working on my root, first of all, good for you. How can I try and balance what's beyond it while working on the root? I love this question.
I think that the most important, like the root is the most important chakra for me to find like daily low maintenance ways to work with it. Like I am especially like as a person who is more anxious than most, I have almost trained myself at this point to be like in a constant state of nervous system regulation. In a consistent state of grounding. Like I'm constantly looking for opportunities to work on my root. The more low maintenance you make the root, the easier it's going to be to work on other things while strengthening it.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one word. The one word to work on your root while you do anything else.
Hit me with it.
And that word is space. Space. Because here's the thing. When we are running, whether that is like we're literally running out the door in the morning with like our piece of toast in our mouth and our coffee, like, you know, pouring our coffee while we pack our bag or whatever and running out the door. When we are running from appointment to appointment to appointment, meeting to meeting to meeting, back to back to back to back to back, your brain doesn't know the difference between that and running from a tiger. And so just creating pockets of space. And I don't mean like cancel your appointments. I mean buffer them by 2 to 5 minutes. And don't do anything in that time. Just sit, feel your feet on the floor, breathe, right? If you are constantly running late in the morning, set your alarm 5 minutes earlier, right? Like if you are eating breakfast in your car, it's like, okay, but what if you got to work 5 minutes early and you ate in your car rather than while you're running out the door?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's where can you find little pockets of space? And sometimes that means prioritizing. I'll give you an example that I had yesterday, literally like wonky root central. This is like the busiest month of my life between Reiki training season, attunements for my level 1 students. We're under contract for a house, by the way, spoiler alert, we're under contract. So now we're trying to sell our house. So now I have like attunement sessions and then training sessions and then keeping my house as sterile as possible and then moving the dogs out of the house during showings that are booked all over the place and like working from home in between that. It's just like absolute chaos. So yesterday I woke up and I had literally a back to back day. It was like I had attunement sessions, and then I had like 4 to-do list items. I had to fold my laundry, attunement session, and then I was going to just film YouTube for 3 hours, and then we had a showing, and then it was just chaos. And I woke up and I was like, okay, what if I reprioritized?
Mm-hmm.
What can I let go of in the interest of creating more space for myself today?
Yeah.
And what are the consequences of letting that go? Like, can I live with those? And so I texted my YouTube manager and I was like, we're not gonna put out YouTube next week. We're gonna film. We're gonna push it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna push it. And you know what? I felt so much lighter after that. And so sometimes it's a matter of just like reprioritizing.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you have that dinner with friends that you are dreading all week, don't be afraid to stay home and go to bed early sometimes. Right? Like sometimes we need that. You don't have to do the most. I think so often when we're working on the root, we think we need to do more. I'm saying you need to do less.
Yeah. And if you're someone who, especially like at work, doesn't have a ton of control over your schedule and you're not able to reprioritize, like if that's kind of decided for you, this can be as simple as taking a couple extra minutes in the bathroom, like just sitting.
Yes. Eating lunch not at your desk.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, so I had a job that forced me to take a lunch break. I'm not a lunch break girly. I struggle with it. I had a job that forced me to clock in and clock out for my lunch break. Like they were mad at me because I was skipping my lunch.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just eat at my desk, whatever. And so it was so miserable, that half hour every day, that I was just like, it's not even that I liked my job that much. It was just I'd rather be working than doing nothing.
Yeah.
Wonky root. Wonky root.
Mm-hmm.
And so I forced myself to take a walk at lunch or sit in my car. But I had to leave the building.
I did the same thing, except for this was when I worked in a mall. When I was a cosmetics lady, a counter girl, some might say, back in the day, I had to take an hour for lunch.
No.
It was so strange.
My ADHD can't.
And you work in the mall. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
I would walk laps around the mall.
Yes.
I would eat my lunch that I brought from home in the food court. Mm-hmm. I would pull out my little lunch box in the food court. I would eat my lunch. Everybody would be like, where'd she get that?
Yeah.
And then I would just do laps.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's like even just creating like little pockets of space, doing less will help you work on the root while you work on everything else. Yeah.
Did we do it?
I think we did it.
That is the official conclusion of our chakra series.
Ooh.
Let us know.
I've noticed that Lily's been pulling that in for us sometimes, which I really appreciate.
I know.
Love you.
Thank you, Lily. Love you.
It makes me crack up every time I hear it.
Please feel free to let us know what you thought. How did you feel about this long form series where we
leave us a review?
Leave us a review. Leave your favorite small business a review. Leave your favorite 5 small businesses a review.
Oh, wait. Right? This could be a really fun, like, pay it forward moment. Let's all do this. Okay, this is your challenge. This is your first official Demystify Magic kindness challenge. You're going to make 5 small businesses have a magic moment this week by going and leaving a public review for them, whether that's on Google or your Instagram stories or whatever, but just tag those five brands and then let us know when you're done so that we can give you a big old round of applause.
Yes, it is truly. Google reviews are the kindest thing that you can do for a small business. So if you see a small business, like especially if you have like a local restaurant that you love that you notice is struggling in the slow season, what helps them more than anything is reviews. You have no idea I had no idea what a big deal it was until I had a business that had a Google profile.
And if you want like a very simple gratitude practice, do this every morning.
Mm-hmm.
Three businesses, or you could text like 3
That's a lot of businesses.
That made your day. I know.
I don't know that I go to that many businesses. I would run out fairly quickly. Just start doing it to random businesses. maybe one
a day. How's that?
Or like making it a practice of like when you go to a place that you really love.
Yeah.
That is a great way to pay it forward. Okay. I love that.
Let's do it. That's your challenge for this week. And you can start right now by leaving us a 5-star review.
Could be fun.
Could be fun.
I don't know. I've heard it's pretty enjoyable. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison. If you want to learn more about us, you can find all our links in the show notes.
We'd love to know what you think of today's episode, so drop us a review or give us a shout out on social media. And don't forget to let us know your magical moment of the week. Okay, love you. Bye.